Thanks for tuning in to the Land and Home Show. Today we're talking about land values in the Bluegrass region. Okay. 5 to 20 acres took way longer than I expected, so welcome to part 2. This is not going to be a long video, like an hour. I don't think my camera can take it, so we're just going to go in 3 parts. Now we're in the 20 to just shy of 50 acre range. What would this be? 2024 to 2025, June to June. Woof. All right, let's start with some of the least expensive counties. So, coming in number 5 is Montgomery County, $7,423 per acre, an average of 27.9 acres with each transaction. Number 4 would be $7,200 an acre and some change. Boyle County, coming in about 24.2 acres per transaction. Owen County comes in number 3 at $5,900 an acre, coming in at 31.6 acres per transaction on average. Nicholas County, not surprising. Nicholas is always, the more acreage there is, Nicholas County is always up there in, where you find the most value. Nicholas County is number 2, $4,858 per acre, as in 4,858 per acre, about 38.4 acres on average per transaction. And then last but not least, well, actually, it quite literally is the least amount of dollars per acre, is Bath County, coming in at $2,495 per acre, an average of 31.5 acres per transaction. So that's where that's going to be your dollar to acre sort of comparison there. Overall, in this particular category, I like talking in these terms because this is really where you start to get into the recreational piece. Hunting, I guess hunting, hunting, hiking, just recreational property in general. I want to go camping. I just want a place to escape to the weekend and 4-wheel like this. You're starting to be able to do this when you get beyond this 20 acre thing and you're moving bigger and bigger. So the overall market statistics for this market segment consisted of about 80 properties over the course of the year. The median sale price was $225,000. The average sale price was $288,078. Excuse me. Your median price per acre was $8,800 per acre. Your average price per acre was $8,839. Average property size 33.4 acres. So even in the 20 to just under 50, you're on the lower end of that 30 acre range if you're going from 20 to just under 50. So 33.4 acres is about the average, with the whole bluegrass that I've been counting. Let's see, and that's that. Let's keep on moving here. Now, when you start talking about just some key things to take away from this, Fayette County is getting the highest premium here. Initially, when we talked in the last video, it was Jessamine County. And a lot of the reason for that is there are these small, I want to have a rural subdivision, basically. So they're subdividing land and then creating a subdivision, as in a neighborhood, out of this land, these 1 to 5 acre lots for people to build houses on. So they develop them, they put in the roads and the streets and the electricity, the water. Most of this stuff is on septic. So that commands a really high price because A, everybody wants it, but B, there's a lot that goes into developing an entire neighborhood, an entire community. But then when you start moving beyond the 20-acre range, well, no one's really making, there's like one example I can think of in the Bluegrass, but generally speaking, no one is making 20 to 40 acre communities to live in. So what you really end up with is land that has been subdivided in such a way that there's not much else that you can do with it. Like in Fayette County, for instance, you can't divide anything any further than 40 acres. If I have 120 acres, the most I can do is make it 3 40-acre lots. That's all I can do. So now with 40 acres, who am I selling to? You really cut out a lot of the segment, a lot of the buying segment when all you can offer is 40 acres. And I don't mean that that's too little. In fact, I mean it's too much because most people aren't looking for that. So you're starting to shift where demand is in the market. And what's really interesting, I keep saying 40 acres. Oh, well, never mind. What's really interesting about Fayette County coming in as a high premium is, it is horse country. You start talking about 30 acres, 40 acres, 50 acres, and there's a lot you can do to have a nice hobby farm for horses, which is generally what Fayette County is made of. It once upon a time used to be mostly cattle, but now there's definitely way more horses than there are cattle in this particular county. So that's one insight. It's just that Fayette County is commanding the biggest premium on acreage between 20 and just under 50 acres. Unsurprisingly, Jessamine County is up there. Bourbon County is also up there. Scott County and Woodford County are all up there. And these are all counties that touch Lexington. So for the same reason that people want to be in Lexington to have their horses on this amount of acreage, most people that want 40 acres in Lexington are not looking for a playground. They're looking to be close to Keeneland. They're looking to be close to Kentucky Horse Park. They're looking to be close to the even larger boarding operations that are on hundreds of acres, right? So if you can't be here, you want to be in the next best spot, which is that outer bullseye. You got the bullseye that Lexington is, and you got a bunch of places around Lexington. And so Jessamine, Bourbon, Scott, and Woodford all touch Lexington, and it's no surprise that they also command a premium. Not as high as Fayette County, but they're up there. And then most affordable happens to be the further east you go. Not a shocker. Bath and Nicholas between these 20 and just under 50 acres come in between $2,500 an acre on average and $4,900 on average. Nicholas is very hilly, just like Bath. There's some give and takes to either, but I'll move on. Let's see. Let's talk price distribution a little bit. Our last video, we talked 5 to 20 acres. That's only a 15 acre difference, right? Now we're talking about a 30 acre difference, 20 to just below these 50 acres. 40% of the sales are 20 to 30, 30% of the sales are 30 to 40, and 26% are 40 to 50. I'm not surprised. The higher acreage goes, the cheaper it gets, right? It's like, I always use the analogy, if you buy one chicken breast, I don't know who sells just one chicken breast, but if you buy one versus a pack of 12, your dollar per pound goes lower. Acreage generally works in the same way. Also, the demand for more and more acreage really starts to drop off the higher that acreage gets in our county. We don't live out west, we don't do the whole 5,000 and 20,000 acres of land here in Kentucky. Those days have since gone. Like, Kentucky wasn't even really a state yet when we had acreage that big, owned by one person or one family. So the higher you get, the less buyers are interested in that particular thing. Doesn't mean that you can't make a lot of money as a seller. It just means you're selling to a less of an audience. So it doesn't surprise me that we dropped from 40% of the that 40% of sales consist of the bottom segment, 20 to 30 acres. 30% is 30 to 40, and then you get to 40 to 50 acres, and suddenly it is less than 30% of anybody looking for it. It's 26. So I just wanted to point that out as we creep higher, because the next video is 50 acres and more, but that'll be a totally different thing. So let's see. There were 48 sales in 2024 in this particular category of acreage, and 32 sales in 2025. Remember, this is June to June. I should have mentioned this in the last video, and I guess it's more of a trends thing and not just a 2024 to 2025 thing, but consistently every single year, June is the biggest month for sales, period. Every single year, June is the biggest month. Every year. Very different than houses. Houses peak usually in August or September in this market area, but for land, June is that is the month. So I think it's really interesting that there were less sales last year coming into this year, because I was talking with some market people that do lots of surveying and appraising, and they were saying how in Kentucky in general, they just saw 10% less inventory than they had the previous year. And this isn't quite a 10% reflection, but it is an interesting decrease. It's what would that make it? That'd make it 30, a third of a difference. 16 less sales. 16 is a third of 48. Yeah. Meanwhile, the average price per acre went up between the 2 years. Very interesting. Let's move on, because you're probably wondering about some county by county things. I gotta keep scrolling. I did a much better job compiling my data this year. So your highest value markets are going to be Fayette, Jessamine, and Bourbon counties. Period. They just blow it out of the water. They're all going to be on average more than $15,000 an acre. Obviously these are averages. This is not every single sale. The most consistent markets, meaning out of all of the transactions in these two counties, these transactions share prices more similarly than, say, the most expensive ones. So Owen County has the smallest deviation in price per acre, coming in at about almost $1,200 an acre, and then Harrison County shows consistent pricing around $7,600 an acre. The most volatile markets, again, are those highest value places, but most notably Fayette County and Jessamine County. You're gonna find up and down. You start to get into South Fayette County, toward the river, the topography changes quite a bit. It doesn't have that idyllic rolling land that you see all the horses running on. It starts to turn into cliff sides because the river's there. So you get a shift in rock formations there. You get rockier soils. You get more jagged topography. Nothing mountainous, but things do become a lot more severe compared to something that you'd have a horse running on a horse farm. And Jessamine County, I don't really have an explanation for that other than to say it does also share a border with the Kentucky River, and I imagine the closer you get to that river and the more that topography shifts and the further away from Lexington you get some volatility, meaning that price breaker gets lower because that land is less usable for a lot of the reasons why people want to use acreage this size. Best value markets, Bath and Nicholas. You've got same things, lowest acreage, lowest dollar per acre. We've covered these two counties before. I think Bath's lowest dollar per acre was $1,185 between 20 and 50 acres, and Nicholas was an average of $48.58, which I think I said before. but you're going to get your best value there. And then market leaders by volume, meaning where did you see the most sales, the most things for sale? Franklin County, Mercer County, and then Nicholas County. So that is the 20 to just below 50 acre range, and stay tuned for the third video where we cover 50 acres and more. Thanks for watching.